Boom, hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Hey, what's up, you guys? Byron Rodgers here for another episode, and I'm really excited about this one. I've got Ivor Terret with me. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, that's good, man. I'm used to everything. I roll with anything. That's all good.
Yeah, Ivor Terret with me, and he's a very well-respected practitioner in the game. Heard his name a lot before I actually got to meet him. Our paths crossed a little bit out on the interwebs a few times before we really were able to shake hands at this last close protection conference. But I'm excited to have him on the show, and just to start the conversation. How you doing, Ivor?
Yeah, good, man. Living the dream. Good to be here. My first podcast.
Yeah, that's okay. I would have thought you'd have been doing a lot of these things.
No, man.
With all the teaching and stuff you're doing, and all the information you're putting out. It's good to have you then. So I guess we'll jump right into it. Background stuff, from the beginning. I've butchered a few people's backgrounds by trying to read them. I'm not going to do that anymore. And I think everyone's just probably relieved. So, what's your background, man? Break it out for us.
So it's quite diverse. I know that one of the things that a lot of folks ask me and are interested in is how I got into this.
Yeah.
And there are various parts of my career that I can ping into to say, when did it really kick off, whether private sector or government or military. But the truth is, and this not many folks know, I think, but it was a combination of love and luck, right? Yeah. So I moved from Johannesburg, South Africa to Cape Town for what was then what I thought, the one, the love of my life, which it wasn't, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I think we've all.
We've all been there. And as an extra means to be there with her, right after high school, I was working as a bouncer at a bar, right?
Heck yeah, that's what's up. Okay. Right? Yeah, man, I'm right there with you.
They used to call me and a buddy, we used to bounce together. We were called the two Jewish midget bouncers.
That's so good.
So one night we're working the door, and it was a nice place. It wasn't a very rough place, but there was someone that was drunk, and the short story is he was asked to go home, and his friends sort of took him out the door. There was no action or violence or anything. Mm-hmm. And on his way out, he turned to me and he said, "Hey, you guys, you such heroes standing at the door. Why don't you go do something with your skills more worthwhile?" And in his drunk state, he told us about a security organization.
Really?
And that was the beginning. I found out who it was and where it was, and started out with that. And that's actually where I met Max Siegel. That's where it all started.
Wow.
A long time ago. And from there, I was recruited to upgrade the security of the Jewish schools in Cape Town towards the time of the end of apartheid, because the Jews are always under threat, and there was a lot of panic by the white communities that no one knew how the end of apartheid was going to play out in South Africa. So that was a 6-month contract, and right after that I went full-time to manage the security of the entire Jewish community of Cape Town. So that was around not a very big community. It was around 20,000 people at the time, and maybe around 50 to 70 fixed sites. I don't quite remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's a part of my background that I don't really talk about. It doesn't really touch the private sector where we are now.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
It's like, I say protector by nature and also by trade kind of is where I find that a lot of the really good guys are. And it's kind of like me, like I didn't necessarily choose the private security game. It just kind of chose me. It was like, I was like, yeah, I felt like I was going to do it in my heart. And then kind of like you, a door opened and I walked through it. And then all of a sudden, like you blink and like, you're doing the thing.
So there's another part to it that something you just said just reminded me. And I think it's also I can count on probably both my hands how many people know about this, but I'm writing a novel.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is it's not a plug for the novel work. So we can speak about the novel another time.
Awesome.
But the novel should be coming out really, really soon. I'm writing. And
I'm looking forward to that.
The opening scene of the novel, although it's completely a novel, but the opening scene is based on a true scene. So the opening scene is two kids, and the younger kid was a kidnap victim, right? Some fucking, sorry, I can't say that on the podcast, can I?
You can do what you want, man.
Some monster came and grabbed the kid and trying to kidnap him. Okay. And that's the character of the story. And then I go on to write about the character that from that day growing up, that character had a calling of protecting those that couldn't protect themselves.
Awesome.
That was me.
Awesome.
I was that kid. So that's really how it started, right? So it really started in a field somewhere with some scumbag grabbing me by the shoulders and saying, you're coming with me, and throwing me in the back of a car with another two kids.
Really?
Yeah. So you asked where did it start? That's where it started.
Wow.
Fear, that primal fear that I've felt just a few times in my life since then.
Yeah.
But that's when it changed, man. That's when the wiring changed.
Yeah. And you decided like this type of thing had never happened to me again, or just changed?
No decision. It's I managed to get away. We all managed to get away, and that's a story for another day. But thankfully, nothing happened to me. It could have gone a different way. Nothing happened. There's no scar or psychological or physical. But no, I think it just had a big part in developing who I am, and that I like to help people, and like I tell people when I teach, if this was rocket science, we'd all be rocket scientists, but it's not. So this is my way of helping people.
Heck yeah!
It's just the way we wired. I didn't choose it; it chose me.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. There's a certain character, a certain like internal strength. I mean, if I was gonna go way back, for me, it was the same kind of thing. Like, well, I was from the Bahamas, and I was born in the Bahamas. My mom took me to Washington State to grow up. Then I go back to the Bahamas, and all the little Bahamian kids, they're like little island kids. It's like a third world country in their world. So they're just like, oh, like, look at the American. I bet he's soft. And they'd like jump me all the time. Yeah. So I'm growing up with my mom. So I'm kind of chubby and like, a little bit sweet and gentle. And man, they used to just jump me all the time. Like every summer I'd have to come back and fight all of them all over again when I go visit my dad. And that's really when I started to build that self-reliance and really started to build that like little bit of a harder exterior, and then it was after that, it was like, hey, I was just the chubby little black kid and I wasn't going to let anyone pick on me. And then I wasn't going to let nobody pick on nobody else, and then boom, here I am.
That's it. Absolutely.
Mom's growing up, mom's in the house. I'm kind of the man of the house when I'm with my mom, and that dynamic. So then I got 5 little sisters. You just blink, and then you start fulfilling these roles. And
that's it. So in a sense, you were a protector before you realized you were a protector. You were a protector by necessity, and that created the nature, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's what's up. So then after, let's see, you were saying, so you got into this thing from the civilian side, from Jump Street.
Right, and then I went to move to Israel. It was always my dream to serve in the IDF, and
awesome.
I served for a little bit in the IDF. I was injured, and then I moved to complete my service in a new project that we're doing, which is to serve as a police officer as part of my conscription. Awesome. Where I served in the old city of Jerusalem. So, I mean, you've been there, you know what it's like?
Yeah, man, that's game time. I mean, yeah, I love it.
I love it too. So I served there every day in a small, very small unit. We, nothing, no traffic stops or anything like that. It's real work. It's pretty cool. And then, when I left the service, I was actually recruited into. And I'm just thinking while I'm talking how much I want to put on here on the vocal thing.
In the interwebs.
Exactly. So I was recruited into a government detail supporting the U.S. State Department.
Okay.
Which was started up with it was a joint effort of several agencies, and that was primarily dealing with the counterterrorism aspect from the security counterterrorism aspect. So I'll say anti-terrorism, if that's a term. So the anti-terrorism aspect of protecting dignitaries and strategic places and strategic meetings and events and things like that. That was a completely covert unit. Our unit in Tel Aviv was selected to be the pilot program for all the other ones that rolled out around the world, which is pretty awesome. And at some point, I transitioned into the private sector. So another unknown fact, you can see on my LinkedIn, but other than the 9,500 people I got there, some folks don't know, I went to work in the high-tech company. So a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, you need a business intel guy, and you from that side of you've got the intel part, but we need a business intel thing for our startup. So I jumped over there, and it was pretty cool. But after the first year there, I realized it was a startup company and we're living off investment, and we didn't really know if we're getting a salary 1 month or not. So that's when I opened my first company, and a security company, and I moonlighted on the side. And pretty much around that time is when I met Christian West. So Christian and I go way, way back. And that evolved pretty much to where I am now. Between then and now, I've had the privilege to still support various government projects, all for the good guys, in a private capacity, and and work with really, really good people. People ask what I love about what I do. I won't speak about the industry, I'll speak about what I do.
Yeah,
and that is I get to spend most days with really, really good people.
Awesome.
So I think I'm pretty privileged to be doing cool things with great people.
Yeah. Nah, man, I had to agree with you 100%. The funny thing is you answered like my first 5 questions in that, in that whole swerve right there, man. But yeah, no, for me, I agree with you with where you're saying work with really cool people. The cubicle thing literally is motivation for me. Like, I'm so scared of it ending up in a cubicle. I'm really, really glad that, the guys on the details and things that I work with, I jive with, man. It's good to be able to have that teamwork and that camaraderie and all that stuff. But yeah, so, I mean, you've got so much experience. It's kind of like one part of my mind is like, no wonder you kind of evolved into the covert security kind of vein. And then the other part of my head's like, how exactly kind of?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic question. So the core of what I was doing for most of the years was really the anti-terrorism type security, right? Protecting people in public spaces from the boogeyman. That's really the core of what I've been doing.
Okay.
When I left the job in the government unit, and that was with the U.S. state. When I left that job, and I moved into the private sector, I was in Israel, right? So I'm this guy. I've got what I think is pretty decent experience, and I've got a company. How do I get business? How do I differentiate myself from everyone else? So I could have said, well, EP, I've done it at up to head of state level.
Awesome.
Anti-terror regular security, I've done it. I've done major events. I've done the risk assessment and all of that stuff. And this we're talking over 20 years ago. And then I thought, but there's other folks that have done it. Like I'm in Israel. I'm in the melting pot of, so it's going to be me saying I've worked with head of state, and it's going to be another 3,000 people that have worked with head of state, and another 6,000 people that have accents. So that qualifies them, right?
Yep. Everyone's doing it there.
Exactly. So I thought, all right, what in my career can I leverage that will differentiate me from everyone else? And and I looked and I saw the most recent block that I'd done was on the COVID protection and government surveillance detection team. And that's where I put the emphasis on to differentiate myself from the market. And from there, it just grew much, I won't say much bigger than it was because it's still not mainstream, but that's where it started. So way back then, that was circa, it would have been around 2002, a long time ago. Wow. So that's the COVID aspect. The COVID aspect was a very cool part of my career that I worked in at the government level, that I leveraged to market and differentiate myself from everyone else. And that itself created more market noise and more opportunity to work in it. So, looking back, it's been over 20 years that I've been swimming in the pond of the Greyman. And it's been a fantastic journey. It's really been a good journey. And people ask what I like about it. So I'm not on top of the principal. I don't get in the spotlight. I don't get in the camera lens. And best of all, I get to do my job, right? So I don't have to, I'm not, when we're doing covert work, we're not the guys that are asked to, hey, principal needs some tea. Can you run out and get some tea? Or, the other stuff, which is extremely important to our success to the business of VP. Absolutely. But when we're doing the covert thing, we sort of left alone to do our job, which is I like it. It's pure. Pure.
That's awesome. Okay. Man, I had such a good question while I was listening to you. Okay, so just for our listeners at different levels, civilians and experienced, can you break down the Greyman concept real quick for them? When you say Greyman,
you caught me a little bit off center there because I used it now, but I generally don't use that. But it's really just not attracting attention to yourself. And pulling that into the whole covert thing. The covert thing is not necessarily the Greyman. It's more about hiding your true purpose of what you're doing. It's not, people, and up until about 6 years ago, I used to use the term blending in. Blending is not an objective. It's one of the methods that we use. It's a technique. It's not always the right technique.
Tool.
It's a tool. The objective is to hide our true purpose of being there. But it's blending in might be a tool that's pertinent or not. That might be effective or not effective. Maybe I want to be the guy dressed in a lion costume handing out flyers, right? Yeah. I'm not blending in, but I'm hiding my true purpose of being there. So the Greyman concept is generally being out of the limelight, which. And I got to give credit where credit's due to Mr. Elijah Shaw.
Yeah.
Elijah.
He's good, man. He's good. He had a good episode on here, man. It's one of our most listened to episodes. We had a good time. Highlander.
When I had my company, Multi-Tier Solutions, my first company, many evolutions ago, I was working quite closely with Elijah, and Elijah looked at the website and said, "This is great. But how do people know who you are?" And I said, "Well, I've got my background, and it's I think it looks pretty good on the website." And he said, "It does. But how do people know who you are?" He said, "You can't be in the shadows and be marketing yourself in business at the same time." He said, "Tell people who you are. You have nothing to hide." And Elijah is to blame. And to thank at the same level. A sort of social media whore that I am today.
Right.
Which I'm thankful for, because that's very important in the business world of today.
It really is. I agree with you. I've been kind of putting myself out there for a little bit now. And I think it's something that the private security world is a little bit very leery to, and for good reasons. I've seen guys do it incorrectly and just destroy themselves. So it's got to be done right. One thing you said real quick back there that I wanted to just point out that I thought was awesome was it sounded like you took some time and you figured out your niche, and you drilled down and you figured out how niche, however you want to say it, how can I differentiate myself from everyone? And like, just for everyone listening, in terms of business practice, this is a very tactical and it's a very wise move. It's if you want to make an impact in an industry, I would say this is a technique you really should look at. You got to, what do people know you as? What guy are you? Are you the celebrity guy? Are you the, corporate guy? Are you the, covert guy? Think about what you have that other people don't have, or just what hasn't been done yet, because that'll get you ahead. You don't want to run in the rat race.
Absolutely. Or what is being done, but it's already a niche. So sometimes that's even better, because when there's a niche that's happening, and say a small percentage of the market is doing it, but they're working in it, you don't have to create the market. You just have to be the best within that small niche. Whereas when you start from zero, you've got to create the market awareness, and you've got to create the market.
That's true.
And it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool journey, but it's been long, and it's been over 20 years, and it's only recently becoming more mainstream. And that's because you've got really industry pioneers like Christian and Brian and the team over at AS that are really pushing this out, and the clients are asking for it. So that's helped propel it into sort of mainstream services. But before that, it was it was okay, but it wasn't really flying forward into the mainstream.
Yeah. And I think with kind of the landscape, the way clients are now, they're very much, it's not as much like, I don't know. I feel like the older kind of generation of EP was more like, I don't know, you could get like a Steven Seagal on there and you could get like more overt protection is just what was expected. Now there's so many different political and kind of social dynamic type considerations with regards to image and other things, that the protection game is changing. You have people that want protection that don't want protection. You know what I mean? Or they don't want to appear that they have protection.
Right. And that's one of the advantages of the covert side. It's a huge advantage from the business point of view, but the biggest advantage is actually the tactical advantage, where in a typical situation, the adversary, whoever they may be, whether it's just someone looking to embarrass the principal or someone looking to harm the principal, the first thing they'll do is assess the security and then work out how to circumvent the security. Whereas where we work covertly, we reclaim their tactical advantage, because they're not working out how to circumvent us. They don't know that we're there. So we can surprise them as opposed to them surprising us. And it's not the only way to do it. It should be part of a bigger process. And that's what's happening. And it's been happening for a while, but it's happening more and more now, where the cookie cutter approach is taking the back seat. And it's more of, let's have a look at what are your threats, where are your vulnerabilities? And then now that we see where the vulnerabilities are, that they've been mapped over to probable critical threats, now let's devise a protective strategy. And once we have that strategy, let's look at the tactics. And the tactics might be overt or covert or low profile or whatever it is. But that process is really key in understanding what is best to plug those gaps and plug those holes.
Awesome. So if you were going to explain covert protection or covert kind of type of agent or that approach to someone, layman's terms, how would you describe it to them? What does it look like, sound like, taste like?
Can I do a quick sales plug right there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely.
First week of April, we're running a COVID protection class. I'm teaching on behalf of AS Solution in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Come one, come all. Not all, but good guys should come. So that's the first part. Second part is, it's very, I sort of created my own definitions for high profile, low profile, and covert tactics to protect. And I define them as follows. So I define the high profile tactics as security measures which are visible and clearly security to both the trained and untrained eye.
Okay.
So we'll see it, we know it's security. My grandma will see it, she'll know it's security. It's all good, right? Yeah. And this isn't specific to executive protection. It's any security. Then there's the low-profile security, which I came up with a parallel definition, which was security measures that are visible to the trained eye, but not recognizable as security to the untrained eye. So that would be when we're traveling and we see the contractor, or we see another EP detail, or whatever it is. We know that's security, but my grandma might not.
The plaid shirt and the G-Shock watch with the Oakleys and sand on them. We know where he came from.
Hey, I know, it's all good. It's all good.
No, we're not hating. I'm just saying.
Right, so we recognize that, but other folks that aren't in the industry might not.
Right.
So that's the low profile. And then the covert is often confused with the low profile. It's not really related to dressing down or dressing like you wouldn't dress if you were doing security or a contract. It's not about that. It's about measures and tactics that are used that are unrecognizable as security, both by the trained professional and by the untrained. So we wouldn't know that they're security, right? My grandma wouldn't know that they're security. She doesn't know anything. But we wouldn't know that they're security, even though we've been in the industry for a long time. We just wouldn't know because, that might be the guy or girl in the lion suit handing out flyers or waving a sign saying, Ivor's dry cleaning that way or whatever it is. That's covert. It's hiding the real reason we're there. And it's less related to the type of clothes we wear. Some folks say, don't dress tactically. And I say, what if you're doing Cove Pro at the SHOT Show?
Yeah.
So it's not about what you wear. It's about this. It's about hiding what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? It's about knowing what's appropriate for the time, place, duration, and your story. Who are you? What are you doing there?
Wow. Okay. What would you say? Well, I guess you addressed them. Are there any salient or kind of main big deal misconceptions you see when it comes to talking with people about covert or subversive aspects of security, if I use the words right there?
Yes, so subversive. Subversive has a bit of a negative connotation.
Yeah, right.
So it's not true, because the only people we really
Machiavellian security.
Well, the only people we really want to hide the security from are the bad guys. Mm-hmm. So some of the misconceptions are that it's just about changing what you're wearing. Mm-hmm. Other misconceptions are about the type of earpiece you use. And I'd say probably the biggest misconception is that it's not a one-stop shop solution. It needs to be part of a broader strategy. Yeah. So some people you might be dealing with whatever your client circumstances that they don't want the public or shareholders to see the security all the time, not because they're doing something wrong, but because it might upset confidence in the company and it affects shares, or it might upset the kids, or the kids might be teens and then the friends tease them because they're walking around with security. So there's a lot of aspects like that, and that's really where it comes to play now, is that you can provide complete security, an answer where the client feels comfortable, where we're enabling the client to feel happy and to feel safe while actually being safe. Mm-hmm. So one of the, and that's really it. There's a lot of misconceptions, and I'm working a long time with a close colleague and friend with Caleb Gilbert.
Okay,
and, Caleb prints it out. I said something to Caleb once, and he printed it out in his office, and it's Cove Pro is not simply removing the earpiece from the ear. It's a lot more than that. It's a much broader, it's a much broader, or fulfills a much broader strategy. It's a tactic that results from a much broader strategy. So it's not a one-stop shop. It's not the only answer. It needs to be part of something broader.
Yeah. So it's a tactic within the overall strategy, a bolder strategy.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think just by the nature of a lot of what happens in our industry is people become disciples of an ideology. Then they kind of are this is the only way. And they kind of have their way.
Well, let me draw a parallel, right? And I'm just thinking this while we're talking. Mm-hmm. If you go look at NYPD, and I'll use them as an example because they are really, really top of the game at this.
Yeah.
You look at NYPD, you see the uniformed police officers in Manhattan, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a completely covert aspect to that as well.
Yeah.
Everyone plays their part. There's not only one way; it's all part of the broader strategy.
Absolutely.
So you've got your covert guys, your undercover guys, your detectives. It's all. Everyone has their part to play, and it's the same with us.
100%. And it gives the clients more options. It's kind of like for us, church security on our campuses, we have our overt guys. We have our exposed carry guys that are geared up, exposed weapons, and, they're out front and they're highly visible because that's their job is deterrence. And then we have another layer of roughly a dozen, or depending on which campus you go to, of all the off-duty police officers and CCWs and all that stuff, you know what I mean? So there's a multimodal approach there too. And then, you never know if it's the lady in the bookstore next to you who's on the security team, and you never know, especially now with Zillow and the Bluetooth technology, no one's wearing surveillance kits anymore. So it's even more the communications really kind of
that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. Really?
The covert comms is a whole nother thing.
Covert comms. And they even had a cool name.
Covert comms, but there's no cell phone technology that gives the comprehensive answer to that. There are other technologies, but not the cell phone and not the Bluetooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got to go take that class, man.
Yeah, man. April Fools, we kick off, man.
Yeah, I'm going to have to link up with you after this. Good to go. And I kind of like the mission statement on your website. If you guys haven't seen Ivor's website, it's amazing. Enablement.biz. And the mission statement here is to enable you to achieve your goals without hindrances resulting from risks or unnecessary limiting security measures. And when I saw that, I was like, exactly, because part of what I want clients to experience and feel when I get in there with a detail is that, hey, we're not going to get in your way.
Right.
We want this to be as seamless of a relationship as possible. We just want to keep you safe while you live your life, and that sounds like this is another piece that can help people do that.
Absolutely. And then, that's really what we aim to do as a business, is to enable them to do what they need to do.
Awesome.
We remove that risk factor that might hinder them, and we're not going to put any unnecessary security measures in. And we will, as a company, and me, when I'm working with a client, I'm not afraid to tell a client what's going to work and what's not going to work. And the client can say, well, I don't want this, this, and this. And I'll say, fine, but just so you know, that's resulting in risk from A, B, C, D. It's the client's choice, but it's my duty of care to inform them, in an informed and, of course, respectful way and everything, what the ramifications are.
Right.
And on the flip side, we're never going to sell anything that's unnecessary. Especially since, my business, we don't actually provide any operational services for protection at all. We don't provide EP agents. We don't provide people. We provide advice.
You just reminded me of my other question.
I know. I'm helping you out, your brother. I'm helping you out.
Yeah, I know, because I'm looking at, your website was gorgeous. I'm looking at everything. I'm like, man, this whole presentation. And I'm like, he's got the consulting thing. So why did you choose to go that route and set it up that way?
Without ops?
Yes.
That's a good question. I'd say the most simple answer and the most honest answer is I didn't want to. I'm tired of running ops.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's been the 20 years of having a direct contact to operations, and I'm tired. I'm tired of it. It's I want to focus in imparting knowledge and imparting completely objective advice where I'm not going to be saying to someone, hey, we're going to do a personal security vulnerability assessment or a risk threat vulnerability assessment. Hey, you need to have a team of 12 overt agents, 6 covert agents, a helicopter and a G5. Hey, let me supply all of that to you. Mm-hmm. So there are companies that do the whole turnkey thing, and that's great. But definitely for the first few years of my business, that's not the space I wanted to be in. I wanted to focus. This is the second business that I've owned. And, the first time around, I had a great business, but I wasn't focused. So I was going wherever I thought there'd be business today. So we offered operations, training, consulting, software, everything, which was great. It was a nice little business, but it wasn't focused. And it's stress to manage multiple services from a very small business. I've got a few consultants that work with me, but ultimately it's a one-man show. I don't want to be running ops 24/7 across the world. Yeah. I'm partnered with great companies. I'm partnered with, I'd say, the leaders in the industry. I don't need to run that when I can just say, hey, speak to these guys. Yeah. I don't need to do that. I don't need to deal with that. I'm not on a race for the money. I'm not on the race to build an empire right now. I'm on a race to give my clients the best that they can get. I'm on a race to truly help them do what they need to get done and mitigate real risk for them. Yeah. That's so that's why I didn't go into ops. It's just too much. I don't want the stress. Yeah. I want to start winding down a little bit.
No, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you lesson is focus, Yep. It's hard to be potent and good at something when your focus is diffuse and broken up. And
absolutely. And just to put a point on that, it's, the 1st of January was marked, the end of year 1 of enablement advisors. Yeah. In those 12 months, we provided services in 24 countries on 5 continents. Wow. Yeah. So throw the operations aspect on that. I'll employ it. I don't need it. Yeah. I'm all about, happiness and reducing, stress mitigation, risk mitigation to myself.
Yeah. And, doing kind of more what you're passionate about, doing more kind of what you're passionate about and trading that for, something that just didn't really, you've done already for 20 some years. Exactly. It sounds like you're doing what, like you said, imparting information and making sure your clients are good. Like you could hear the passion in your voice. Like, this is what I'm here for, and if you would have had ops running, you would have been on the phone the computer the entire time, man.
Exactly. I'd rather just hand that off to the
guys who are in the game.
Energetic. Exactly. There's good guys out there. I'm happy to just throw the work about. In my first week of announcing enablement advisors, I got calls from clients saying, hey, we've got this happening, we've got that happening. Can you supply a driver? Can you supply EP? And I was tempted. Yeah. Of course we tempted, right? Because it's income. Yeah. And I just said, I didn't even say to them, yes, I'll do it and then subcontract it. Yeah. I just said, I don't do this, but, if you want to speak to this person or that person, they'll help you out. Yeah. Because, I'm all about being happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm all about being happy, man. It's a very simple equation.
Yeah. Happiness. So how did happiness become such a strong value in your world?
Probably from being unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, sometimes you hit, I wouldn't say rock bottom. I've been fairly lucky, but sometimes you hit a bit of a down phase. And, one day I just realized, I'm unhappy. Why am I doing this if it's not making me happy? Maybe it's making me happy. And I'm not talking about ops. I love ops. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just things in general.
Yeah, in life. We're talking about life.
I'm a firm believer that, there's things out of our control that are pretty crappy. There's, life sometimes quite unfair. But the things that are in our control, both for stress reduction and, and happiness encouragement, we should do. Yeah. It's just, I want to live long and prosper.
Yeah. Heck yeah. No, I dig it, man.
That's the bottom line.
No, that's awesome, man, because it seems like it's working out for you. It is working out for you, And I think that when a strong enough man has a value like that and he has boundaries and it's a non-negotiable, as long as he's diligent and intelligent, it's just a matter of time, really, I feel like, until he finds that.
Yeah, and it's key. It's like, I tell people, if something doesn't make them happy, if they get up in the morning and don't want to go to work, they got to change what they're doing.
Yeah, and it's on them to do that.
It's on them to do it. It's like, some people say, I can't, what am I going to do? We can always do something.
Yeah.
My good friend, Mac Siegel, said something to me. He said, everything's a choice. He said, everything has a price, but everything's a choice. Yeah. So you just have to decide on the price if the price is right. But everything's up to us, almost.
Yeah.
What is in our control, we need to control, and we need to make positive and not let, us be controlled by other things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, control what you can control. No, I'm 100% with that. And, I just want to echo that. Like, if you're waking up and you're kind of like, this sucks, or like for me, I went to SHOT Show this last week. Then I'm driving back and I'm getting ready to get back into work and everything. And so I spent the week in Vegas at this big gun convention, just hanging with a bunch of people that I love and respect, and like, having a good time in the industry. And then, half the people are like, got to go back to real life. I'm like, I get to get back.
Exactly.
I got a shooting competition. I'm going to go to work on Sunday, see some clients, do this, do that. I'm excited. And I'm driving back from Vegas and I'm like, man, I feel so blessed that this is the life I get to live. And I feel bad for anybody who's not going to drive back to something they want to get into. Now, did God like align some stars and just drop it in my lap? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? He was like, I gave you a planet. I gave you an able body. I gave you a decent brain. Yeah, I mean,
right. Yeah.
Right? Like all those things are a miracle. Get after it. You know what I'm saying?
So I like to equate exactly what you said to Tetris. Remember Tetris?
Oh yeah.
So life is like a game of Tetris. We're given the blocks. We just need to know the timing and how to place them.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. It's and people say to me, and it very often happens where I'll be speaking to a colleague, will be out, working, training together or consulting, and I'll say to them, I'll say, you realize this is our job? Like, we're getting paid for this shit.
Right?
Like, it doesn't get much better than this. I mean,
serious, man.
It's it's awesome. It's awesome, and it's a good industry. And if you align yourself with the right people in the industry, I'm not talking about strategic alliances. I'm just talking about who you surround yourself
with. Just good people, yeah.
Just good people and good clients, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. Huge.
That's a big one. Good, know when to say yes, know when to say no. And know when to admit, hey, this isn't working. Let me change. So as long as you know how to recognize and action that, you'll be pretty happy.
Yeah,
and it's important to be happy, man, because we need to work to live, not live to work.
Yeah,
work is the ends. It shouldn't be the work is the means. It shouldn't be the ends.
100%, and no one's coming to save you. Don't put it off for another day. No. You got to do it.
It's all on you.
Yeah, 100%, man. Nobody's coming. Life doesn't care. You'll be the best dress greeter at Walmart, if you don't figure this out. And nothing against that, but I'm just saying.
Absolutely. And you know what? If that's what makes you happy, all the power to you.
Yeah. Then put a smile on people's faces, man.
Yeah. And I know it sounds pretty corny, all the stuff I'm spewing out, but it's true. But it's my philosophy.
Yeah, man. I dig it.
My philosophy is just be happy, do good to others, don't be a dick. That's really my philosophy. And that's
Yeah, man. No, I dig it. And I hate it because it sounds so cliche, but the real good stuff in life, it's cliche because people have been saying it for years and people don't realize how real it is. You know what I mean? Like, don't be a dick, be good to people, be a good dude. I sometimes look at guys and just be a good dude, man.
Exactly.
Like whatever, give him the extra and have relationship equity with him. Have them remember you as a good guy, a good agent, a good whatever, and go about your way. It'll come back around. What would you say were some? What's like the hardest lesson you've learned from the industry? The hard industry, or doing security, or hard lesson you've learned?
I didn't give that too much thought. I guess there's a lot, but really, I boil it down to being disappointed in people, maybe.
Yeah.
I in the past, I've invested a lot of time and and money, but money can always be earned, right? Time you can't get back. So a lot of time in people that I trusted that, that just didn't pan out when, when you invest a lot of time in folks and you give them tools, to have a long-term partnership with them and they use those tools against you. Yeah. That's sort of, when my goodness was taken advantage of. So that's probably, I'd say, that's more personal, but it's in the industry. That's off the top of my head. So that was a hard one because it hurts,
Yeah, they say betrayal's the hardest emotion to deal with. It's the hardest emotion to deal with.
Yeah, I don't think it was, it's happened a few times. I've been in the industry a long time. I don't think it was intentional betrayal. It's just, it's just crap when you invest a lot into someone and they take all of that investment and use it to try take advantage, to better, to forward themselves.
And it's,
go ahead.
It's also good. I mean, it's good knowledge for people listening, though. It's good to understand, like relationship dynamics with regards to business, in my opinion. It's good to give and it's good to be good and kind and giving. But when you're talking about business, I think it's wise to make sure that both parties have some skin in the game and to make sure that both parties have motivations and the same motivations and all these things are aligned, just so that, in the long run, something like this doesn't end up happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's it wasn't even a business thing. It's just
because I'm a good guy. I'm the guy. I've had this happen to me. What you're talking about? Because I just don't think people will do it. I think they're like me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we still got to keep on. And I'm a huge advocate, and folks in the industry will attest to it.
Yeah.
And it's not about I'm not selling myself.
No.
I'm always happy to help people. People send me emails, they ask me stuff. I'm always happy.
Yeah.
Until you try to fuck me over.
Right.
Yeah, so about the language again. But I'm not vengeful or anything like that. I'm just I won't help you anymore. But I still say, help who you can. Put it out there. Pass it forward because, hey, we've all been hungry.
Yeah, man. And that is a big one, not forgetting where you come from and remembering how you were when you were in that position and what would have helped you out. Or you see someone who's ignorant, you got to think to yourself, hey, I didn't always know all this trash I know now. You know what I mean? I once was ignorant. That's what that's how I find compassion.
People helped me.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a time you asked what the hardest thing was in the industry.
Yeah.
The hardest thing in the industry was being without enough work. When my roommates, at the time when we shared a house, I'd wait for my roommate to make a sandwich. And I'd wait till everyone was out the kitchen. And I'd lick my forefinger. And I'd use my wet finger to pick up crumbs on the breadboard. That was my meal.
Oh.
That's the hardest thing that I've from the industry, right?
Yeah, that's pretty legit. That's legit, man.
And then I got helped, and here I am.
Yeah,
I didn't get help with money. I just got help with guidance and opportunity, and people believing in me. That's what I try pass forward now.
That's huge. There's so many lessons in that, and people believing in you. Then you put your best foot forward, and you did the good dude thing. You were a good guy, and you made them proud, and you made sure they didn't regret it. And here you are. And I find that the most giving and nicest people are those who've been there, those who've been at that rock bottom state, and those are the people that are the most kind of really the salt of the earth to me, that are most compassionate and that are the kind of people I like to work with. Because if you've never been there, you don't have it's hard to understand.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
So what would you say is your proudest moment in the industry, a time when you've done something either working or just, and afterwards you were like, boom, that was good. Bangarang,
So there's been a few, some obvious reasons I can't speak about here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'll tell you some cool things. They're not my proudest things. I'll tell you some cool things.
Heck yeah.
So cool one was working on a covert detail with a principal where the instruction was, we don't want the family to see any security. We're on a vacation in quite an elevated risk area.
Yeah.
And, we heard the principal's friend saying to him, things like, "Hey, where's the security detail? Did they go home?" So we were right there. We're close enough to hear them. So we were right there, ready to protect them. It's a small thing, but it's a big.
Oh, it's good. Yeah.
But the best, I'd say, the proudest moments for me is when a client comes to me and says, "Hey, so a lot of my clients are the middlemen. Right? So the clients might be the director or the VP or the principal themselves. But very often it's not the principal themselves. That's just the way I am positioned in the market.
Okay.
But, very often what I really enjoy is when either when the principal or the director or VP or my client, which might be another security company, when they come to me and they say, "Hey, the principal really values what you guys are doing. They really like what you're doing."
Yeah.
That's really the bigness. There's, yes, there's stuff. There's cool stuff. So a recent one, I'll tell you a recent proud moment. Right?
Yeah.
I worked with the detail, and I've got this, I worked with the detail that was somewhat dysfunctional just because it was a long-standing detail and whatever. Internal politics made it dysfunctional.
Okay.
It happens.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I went in there, I looked at what was going on. We started off with a complete risk assessment. I looked at their procedures because it's pointless looking at procedures before you know the risk, right?
Right.
Looked at all the procedures, rewrote all the procedures for the detail. And one of the procedures I wrote was, if anything happens that's seemingly unrelated to the principal, that there's a connection somewhere, and I can't go into too much detail about it, that's why I'm being vague.
Right.
Then you guys shouldn't just sit back and say, "Well, it happened at another site, that's not our site, it's not our problem." These are the emergency actions you need to take. Uh-huh. And 3 weeks after doing that, there was actually a violent attack resulting in deaths at a related site.
Wow.
That didn't directly threaten the principal, but it's a site that's related to the principal.
Yeah.
And I got feedback just a few weeks after when I was talking to the director, and he said, "Hey, by the way, when this happened, just so you know, all the guys did what you taught them, and it worked. We checked, we did what we needed to do. We checked everyone was good."
Awesome.
So that was pretty proud when people actually, to get buy-in for what you're doing or saying, you're just going to be a good salesman.
Right. When
folks come back and they say, we did it. We did it under emergency conditions.
Yeah.
And thank you for it. I don't need it is validation. I don't need the validation, but I like to know that it's being recognized that that's ROI. They're getting return on investment right there.
Yeah.
It happens and they go and, what I've said or a sentence I said, it just clicks with them. Mm-hmm. And they mitigate risk to the client, to the principal.
Heck yeah.
Those are the proudest times when it just comes together.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man, to have that really validated, you know what I mean, in real world, high speed. I mean, that's awesome. I think that's the ultimate validation, man. That's the ultimate kind of litmus test. For me personally, like to have someone come back and say, I mean, with a lot of the motivational stuff I do, to have people come back and say, "Hey, man, like, because of you, I was able to X, Y, and Z," or "You really got me through." Exactly. Or, at this last close protection conference, dude was like, "Yo, you got me motivated to, man, this touched me." You know who you are, man. This touched me. He was like, "Yo, you got me motivated to get back in the game. I lost a bunch of weight. I'm going after my dreams. The podcast really helped me, get it in gear." And then he hit me up and messaged me on LinkedIn the other day. And he's like, "Hey, I'm on." It was one message where he was like, basically said, "I took your advice. I applied to every security detail I could get my hands on. Nothing yet." But then at the end, he says, "I'm going to keep a good attitude." And I'm out of the country doing stuff. I don't catch up with LinkedIn all the time very quickly. I come back and I hadn't seen the other one. I saw both of them at the same time. The very next one was, "Hey, I did some side work for these folks. They really like me. Now I'm in-house full time." Boom. I'm like,
that's it. That's awesome. And it's more than just the work. He lost weight. He's bettered his life. He's bettered his health.
Exactly.
That's important. And that happens. It's great. I teach a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. And it's awesome to see when I get messages like that. "Hey, just so you know, I'm interviewing for this and I got this position. Those are proud moments. Even though it's not me, I'm still proud of these guys.
Yeah.
There's amazing. I know that one of the things you wanted to ask was, what I love about the industry.
Yeah.
People, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great industry. It's people that care. It's people that care. There's great people. There's rubbish in the industry too.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know them. I don't mix with them.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that I mix with, the people that I know in the industry are fantastic people. Aside of how good they are at shooting and underwater knife fighting and ninja Viking skills.
Ninja Vikings, man.
I got to be politically, I got to deal with them. I got to give the ninjas and the Vikings credit, right?
Right. At the same time.
But they're good people. There's good people in the industry.
Man.
That's what I love. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's good when you just got that good rhythm with the right folks. That's kind of huge. Let's see here. So, do you have any experience back onto the covert thing? Do you have any kind of not case studies or experiences where you saw covert protection work, and how did that work? How did it go down? If so,
absolutely. So, yeah. So I'll tell you, on the strategic level, I've seen it work where I've seen principals that are at elevated risk because of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Not because they have a bad lifestyle, but maybe their lifestyle takes part in maybe it's just their high profile or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That simply don't want to feel security, they don't want people to see. And we've, so that's a strategic business success where we put in a co-pro team with partners, and I help set that up, and that enables them to move freely and be comfortable in their lives. That's one success.
Yeah.
But we've had other great successes, where we've been, and I'm going to stay away from any sort of high speed action stuff because there haven't been many in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you some other important stuff when we're with the principal and they get recognized, and someone's, you overhear someone who says, "Hey, I want to go get a selfie with them. I want to go get a photo with them. I want to speak to them about a patent," which is the worst, right? Our principals
the business proposition person, they're shopping, and then there's the business proposition person.
Exactly, and then there's the covert agent goes in, and at that critical time, that critical second, as the person's about to open his mouth to speak to the principal, you tap him on the shoulder from the other direction, forcing him to turn and say, "Hey, which directions to here?" Or, "I think you dropped your cell phone there," or, "You dropped your wallet," or something fell out your pocket.
Yeah.
The guy's like, "Hey, screw you, I want to speak to this other dude."
Yeah.
Oh, principal's gone.
It's over. You missed your moment.
It's over. So there's a lot of those. I mean, I didn't really prepare any sort of case study off the top of my head.
Yeah, no.
But there's a lot of things like that, and the principals don't even know it's happened, and that's the best. That's the success. That's proud moments when you stop something, and that's the success. Or, where there's something happening, something violent happening nearby, and you just redirect away without the principal even knowing what was happening.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. That's absolutely smooth. What is do the principals know who the covert agents are?
That's a great question. So if they do, it's fine. If they don't, it's fine.
Okay.
As long as they are aware that there is a team, that's critical. I know some folks have in the past spoken about, hey, the principal didn't even know that there was a team there. That's all great during day to day. But what happens if there's an emergency? They'll think that you're trying to kidnap them or you're trying to eat them. Right? So that's not very helpful. And no, it's gone back and forth. If the principal knows who you are, you're going to get fired. I tell folks, and I stand by it, if you ever get a job where it's covert or overt or whatever, and you're told if the principal sees you, you're going to get fired, just quit the job. You can't protect them like that.
Yeah.
When we're doing covert work, it's not about the principal not seeing us. It's about them not feeling us.
Mm-hmm.
They'll see us.
Yeah.
Not 15 people, but 15 people working every day on a client. The client's going to see who you are. These people are smart people, right? And they see you. So it's not a matter of, as soon as we try hard from the client, we're no longer doing covert protection, we're doing covert surveillance. You can't protect from it. You can't protect if you're not close enough to react. So I'm not of the school of thought that says hide from the client. I'm of the school of thought that says don't get in your client's space unless there's a crisis, right?
Right.
Hide from it. If you're hiding from the client and just watching where they're going,
Yeah.
you're not really mitigating risk. You're just watching where they're going. You're going to watch something happen to them. You're not going to stop it from happening. Yeah.
That's good to go. I like that a lot because I have some clients where I give them enough space to where it doesn't necessarily look like we're together. And I'm kind of more blending into that. I look like a civilian, as much of a civilian as I can look like. Where would I land in the rubric? To the untrained eye, I wouldn't necessarily look like their guy. But to the trained eye, they might pick me up,
And there's value in that as well. There's value in that as well because in your case, maybe for the congregants, you don't want them to realize. Maybe for the press, you don't want them to realize. But maybe you do want the bad guy to see.
That's exactly.
Maybe the bad guy sees you and he says, well, there's this guy here and he's not clearly security, but he is security.
Right.
How many others do they have? Maybe there's other stuff going on that we don't see.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and it's totally a tactic, far enough for the client to be comfortable and feel like they're having their day, but close enough to where anyone watching them either sees me as Overwatch or doesn't see me watching them, so I see them watching the client too. It's always handy when they, someone following them pops in between us.
And, of course, and what really defines the distance, whether you're covert or overt, is risk.
Yeah, exactly.
How's the risk? Where's the risk from?
Yeah. What's organic to that environment and kind of relative to the situation and all the different variables. Switching gears a little bit I want to talk to you about vulnerability assessments. Kind of what are the things that your kind of definition and primary considerations when you're looking at doing a vulnerability assessment?
Okay, so I don't do a vulnerability assessment. I do a risk assessment.
Risk assessment, okay.
So vulnerability is part of it.
Okay.
So what I do is I look at based on intel, history, input from the client, and again, the client's not always a principal, right? Mm-hmm. Input from the client / principal, and then I look at what are the probable critical threats. So what are the more probable ways of harm that can come to this person or place or event? What are the critical ones? So what are the ones with the biggest impact? Mm-hmm. And then what I do is I'll examine the existing security configuration. So I'll look at what I call the 4 pillars of security. I'll examine the physical security means, technological security means, the security force, so the people, which I used to call manpower, but I feel it's not gender fair. It's not gender neutral. So I'll call it the security force.
Solid.
And I've got a huge place in my professional life for female security professionals, just as big as male, right? Yeah. It's about people. It's not about gender. Mm. And the fourth one is the procedures, which have to tie everything together. So I'll examine what do they currently have in place, and then I map what they have in place to the critical probable methods of harm or threats that we know about or that we've assessed. Only then can I see the vulnerabilities, because the vulnerability is the result of that process. It's looking at and saying what is probable and critical, and what can get through the current physical, technological, security force and procedures. That's when I know there's a vulnerability. And the vulnerability might be in one of those 4 pillars. It might be in the physical realm. It might be technological. It might be in the security force, or there might be something which is most often in the procedures backend.
Wow.
The results of that are the vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. And that's the process for any project that I consult on. That's the starting block, because only at the end of that process can I know, all right, this is what we need to do to plug your gaps. We need to identify the gaps. So that's what I taught this last week. We just finished off on Friday. Yeah. Had a 14 professionals from all over the world, actually. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did for 5 days. Is we learned that process of identifying, measuring risk to identifying vulnerabilities, and then preparing a security plan to plug those gaps and therefore mitigate that risk. So everything we're looking to do is remove opportunity for that, for the adversary to do harm to our principals or people or places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the physical, technological, security force and procedures, it's all designed around, one, removing opportunity, and that's during the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
And then the second part is limiting the damage by removing opportunity once a hostile act starts, because it might start.
Okay. So limiting the damage after. So
Right,
it's not one of these like, oh, something happened, like
no. So
we're done.
Our job continues until the incident is over.
Good to go.
And I definitely don't buy into the broad brushstroke declaration of, if you use a force, you've lost, or if you use your weapon, it's because someone's, you screwed up, or if there's, if there's an attack, you screwed up. That
you're already lost or something.
Might be the case.
Yeah.
But it's not automatically the case, because when a determined adversary gets to their target and they have the means of destruction, so they have a weapon with them, it's very rare that we'll actually stop something from happening before it starts. We can limit the damage. But once someone's there, the chances of us stopping it, they're not zero, but they're very, very slim.
Say that part again. Once
an adversary arrives at their target, with their weapons, and they're determined to do harm, so they're determined, it's very rare that we will stop a violent attack before it starts. There will be some damage, so we might identify them and try stop them, and that will result in them becoming violent prematurely. But most of the time, what will happen, realistically speaking, is they'll start an attack and we'll stop it, or we'll limit the damage. And very often when I consult to clients, I see that they've got, very robust procedures in keeping the principal happy or their place working day to day.
Yeah.
But a lot of the procedures aren't developed around risk. And very few have very robust procedures to deal with an emergency. They'll say things like, evac the principal. And I'm like, okay, great. Who's evacing the principal? Where are you evacuating to? And they might say, we're going to the car. So I'll say, oh, where's the vehicle parked? Where's the keys?
Because Murphy will get loose. Murphy will get loose with a baseball bat. When something happens, this guy's got the keys. The garage door opener's over here.
The guy with the keys is on a lunch break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what really happens. And that's why we need to always think several levels past what we're doing. Or what needs to be done, I should say. Recently, I was speaking to a group about a particular environment where they wanted to hit a kill switch.
They wanted to...
Well, their solution to the problem was to hit the kill switch for the power, which in this scenario would work.
Okay.
And then I said to them, great. Who knows where the kill switch is? And they're like, oh, that's a good question. And how do you know it's a kill switch? And what services does it actually kill? What does it leave on? Yeah. And then they start thinking. So that's really how we have to think, and that's the end result of the risk and vulnerability assessment process.
Okay.
So vulnerability is, to answer your question in a short way, because I've gone really off track.
No, but this is so much good content.
It's not about vulnerability assessments. It's about assessing risk, and vulnerability is one of those factors.
I see.
We don't know vulnerability if we don't assess the threat. We don't know that there's a vulnerability.
Okay.
So if we don't assess what's probable and critical, what harm can be done, what method can be used, we don't know that there's a vulnerability for it.
Yeah, okay.
So I might see there's a vulnerability because my door's not strong enough. But is there an actual threat of someone kicking down the door? Maybe there's not. So then it's not a vulnerability if there's no threat.
Right. So it's really like you're basically looking at the entire security effort.
Absolutely.
On multiple different levels.
And absolutely.
And looking at kind of the organic situation, relative to the client, these are the different groups that spoke out against you this last year. These are your kind of these are the types of threats that you're currently facing, and then also like almost overlapping those to see where the vulnerabilities are, what you have in place relative to your situation, what's relevant, and then overlapping those to see kind of where the gaps are and making sure that they have a plan to take them through the entire trajectory of a violent situation.
Of an incident, but whatever it is, of a crisis. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a process.
Yeah. Wow.
All a process. And it's the process, the resulting deliverable, the document, the plan is very important to write down because the process of writing it forces us to think about various aspects of it.
Yeah.
It's different to keeping it up in our heads. I'm all about the process.
And then everyone gets on the same page, and then you probably like build out SOPs from there, and the whole security strategy emerges.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And then the security strategy needs to at least acknowledge everyone. So if you've got an executive protection strategy and you're not considering place of work, you're not considering home, you're not considering the commute, then you aren't doing as comprehensive or effective a job as you should be or you could be.
Yeah. Outstanding. So it's the beginning, it's the foundation of any security strategy. That's outstanding. Gouge, man. I learned a thing or two listening to that,
I'll just make it up.
Yeah, I just keep it going as we're rolling here. No. But I definitely like that because I've got to do some things coming up here, and it's some things to think about. Because I can think of a few different spots and a few different details where it's like, okay, cool. There's a lot of planning, but in terms of post-emergency specific planning, there's more that needs to be done.
Well, not even post-emergency, during emergency.
During
management.
What I meant to say, the emergency management.
There's post as well, but what's critical is, okay, so it's hit the fan.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know what their job is. Even if in reality it's not going to be 100% like that, it's a great starting position.
Yeah, during the emergency. That's good to go. Because I think a lot of these risk assessments, I think a lot of them just are kind of all about, well, here's the situation, here's how we intend to mitigate this risk, and it really briefs well, and it sells kind of really well, you know what I mean? But the other halves of the equation, during something taking place and on the other side of it, I think that gets left out a lot.
Absolutely, and what I've seen, not all, but a significant amount of risk assessments are a process of information collection. The assessment and analysis is often left out. So you'll get a beautiful document that lists all the information about a site or a person. Yeah. You can actually analyze that information and say,
there's no,
we've got a group there's a group that's been, negatively interested in you. This is their modus operandi.
It's all that
you have at home. They can walk straight in. It doesn't actually go there. It'll just say, this is the group. It won't say, based on what you have at home or the office, your doors are at a level, intruder-resistant level 1, where there should be an intruder-resistant level 4. Like it doesn't go there.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It just highlights all the different risks and not the any solutions. Well, I don't know. This could be just my experience, but I see that a lot of guys sometimes hesitate before putting kind of skin in the game when it comes to sometimes saying that you should do things. You got to put your name on it, and you got to step back.
That's their job. That's their duty.
That's their duty. Yeah, I know.
So the duty of care to themselves, because if it's a detail it doesn't matter who does it actually, but if something goes wrong and they didn't identify it
or plan for it,
then what have they achieved?
They failed.
Their job is to give that principal, that client, the best direction and advice that they can. Did they do that? And if their best advice or direction isn't good enough, then they shouldn't be the ones doing it.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's not just anyone on the detail that should be given SOPs to write because, hey, we want to fill up a shift, we want to involve you because you're bored and complacent. No, not just everyone has got that broad view of the entire system to understand what SOPs need to be in place. Can I give you a quick example?
Absolutely. We got time.
I assessed a detail and I said to the team lead, I was like, hey, so he's standing here in between the vehicular gate, which is quite easy to get over, and there's a front door on the other side of us. What would you do if right now someone ran past us and tried to kick in the door? Mm-hmm. And the response was, well, I'll tell them to stop. And I said, okay, what happens if they're going to get in the house if we can't stop them? Mm-hmm. What happens if it's a big, strong guy, we just physically can't stop them? They're not listening to us. What do you do? So the answer was, well, I'll go grab the principal through another entrance in the house. I've got a passcode. I'll find the principal, and we'll evac out the back gate to the waiting car. And I said, great, let's go have a look at the car.
Yeah.
So we walked around and the car's not there. So I said, well, where's the car? And they said, no. The principal doesn't want two vehicles parked here. So the one vehicle is doing a patrol of the neighborhood. So I was like, then how can that be your plan?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of the things, and this was a long time ago. This was actually a detail in London.
Yeah.
That I was working with in the UK. So this was a long time ago in the UK, and things have definitely changed. And the area that I work in the US, it's not like that. It's much more evolved in this particular detail.
Yeah.
But it's still lacking. Folks aren't thinking things through to the end.
Yeah.
So we've got to ask ourselves, then what? So you grab the principal, then what? You go to the gate. So where's the key? Where do you go when you're on the other side of the gate?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, always ask yourself, then what? Then what happens? Then what happens until the incident is over? It's only when the incident is over and everyone's safe, whether it's an event or a person, so whether you're dealing with crowds or one person, when you're developing your plan, always ask, then what? Until the end of incident.
Yeah.
So that's the process. It's got to go on and on and on until the end of incident.
Because, that's the reality of it. And I think that comes with some real world experience. And I think that's, I don't know, maybe that's an advantage you have on some folks, is that you've kind of been out there and have a lot of real world experience. Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like when you've been through these types of things, you know that you're going to have to find work. I call it find work when something's going down. It's like, then what? Like, I need to be doing something. I need to be doing this. I need to be planning for this.
And the more things we can do ahead of time, and the more we can arrange ahead of time, so that if it happens, I know what Ivor's doing. I know what Byron's doing. We don't need to discuss it. We don't need to communicate. We don't need to copy Rodgers on there and everything. Just go do your thing.
Yeah, I know I'm going to meet you here with this.
Speak about it afterwards. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And laugh about it, hopefully, afterwards.
Because those are critical seconds.
Yeah, and through decision making, you can give yourself as many tactical advantages as possible, because we don't pick the place and time for these things, Kind of the last topic I wanted to touch on with you was surveillance detection, man. You hear surveillance detection. I mean, you're kind of the guy to ask about it, in my opinion. What would you say is kind of really important about surveillance detection? Why? And then we'll go into another little bit about it.
So first of all, surveillance detection, or I'll start at the beginning, surveillance awareness.
Yeah, awareness.
No, we'll go to detection, but awareness is a core skill that every field security person should have. So if I'm teaching EP, if I'm teaching Covert, if I'm teaching, it doesn't matter what I'm teaching. If it's related to people in the field, hostile surveillance and what you need to do if you suspect it. That's
because if you're protecting a high net worth individual, if it's acting, singing talent, if it's a royal family, if it's based on our client demographics, this is a foundational skill that I think, I agree 100%.
And it's our job, our goal is to stop a hostile act as far as possible from whoever or whatever we're protecting, and as early as possible in the cycle.
Yeah.
So hostile surveillance is really the earliest time in the cycle that we as field people can stop something, disrupt that attack plan or attack cycle. Surveillance detection is as opposed to surveillance awareness, that we just should be aware all the time. Mm-hmm. Surveillance detection is a set of tactics that are designed to confirm or deny if there was hostile surveillance directed at whatever you're protecting within the time that you are doing that particular role. So it's not a 24/7 thing. It's not. It might be, but it doesn't always have to be. It might be, but my point is that it is a dedicated task that can only assess what's happening while you're doing that task.
Okay.
It can't assess anything else.
Yeah.
And the thing that's left out of a lot of details, unfortunately, is they get the manpower, they get the training.
Yeah.
They don't consider analyzing the data. So without a data analyst, there's no one really that joins the dots.
Okay. Who says, hey, that weird blue car, two of our guys seen it over the past like 2 or 3 days. And then
someone that would say, hey, that blue car is registered to so-and-so who's a member of this particular club. And 3 months ago, we saw someone on the East Coast or on the West Coast on the other side of the country who also belongs to the same club. I see we're having a pattern.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we do. Surveillance detection tries to identify correlation to something that reacts with our environment over time and distance.
Wow. Okay.
So if we see it once or twice, it might be something, it might be amateur, but for anyone who's a more professional surveillance detail, we'll need to pick that up over time and distance.
Okay.
Picking up over time and distance, it can't be sitting in just someone's head who was involved, because there's no one joining the dots. So if I see something and there's no data analyst, it's reliant on me or my team lead to remember what happened 6 months or 3 weeks ago and to join the dots.
Accurately.
And so a data analyst doesn't have to be a dedicated role. It's a function. It's not a person. So it could be someone on the team that has that role. And just to end off, if you look at the attacks in Mumbai in 2008 to 2007, intelligence was connected for 12 months before there was surveillance.
Wow.
It's a long thing. It's not just
it's like a
thing. And it's pretty effective. It's very effective, actually. It's a very effective tool, a very powerful tool.
Okay. So, I mean, so essentially so it's not like a set of skills that someone is. So there's both, so it sounds like one is a set of skills that over time people are consolidating information and analyzing that information to look for patterns and to look for, trends that would give you suspicion or anything like help you know if you're being surveilled. I think I used it correctly. Yeah. And then the other aspect is while I'm here, relative to what I'm doing and, organic to what I'm doing, this individual or person's group may be actually watching us.
Correct. Absolutely. Right. And then there's the third aspect. So when I first came into the private sector, surveillance detection was an unknown thing.
Okay.
The folks that knew it, the directors that I was speaking to that did know it because they came from government sector, from the Secret Service or the State Department. There's just no budget for dedicated teams.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was just thinking.
I came up with a phrase that I used to do because I needed to earn money, right? Which was surveillance detection enabled, which is a pretty cool term. So surveillance detection enabled is where we take the agents, so overt agents, and we train them in the skills of surveillance detection, so that during a high-risk time, they can be pulled off the detail for a week just to do surveillance detection and then slip back into their role. So a week or 2 weeks or whatever, month, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's the middle ground. So on the one end of the spectrum, we've got surveillance awareness, which is the regular guys that say, hey, I think that guy is correlating with us. Every time we come here, they do something.
Yeah.
Let me try and get info. Let me report it to our data analyst. And then there's a dedicated covert team. And then there's a surveillance detection enabled.
Wow.
Which is a regular team. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any principles of knowing whether or not you're being surveilled that stand out that you want to touch on?
Gut feel.
Huh?
Gut feel. Trust your gut. Trust your instinct.
Trust your gut. Yeah.
I mean, that's the most. There's others, and I can't make a living off trust your gut.
Yeah.
Are the techniques that I teach that work and are real, but trust your gut is the biggest insecurity. You'll know when something's not right a lot of the time. Trust it. Be curious. If something's not right, find out what's not right. Find out why it's not right. So be curious about it. And when I say find out, don't do an analysis within yourself to say, well, they walked a little strangely, and it's more about, hey, this guy's moving, his movement's not right. Let me see who he is. Let me see what's going on. Because when we're in the field, we don't have time for deep analysis. We have to be curious, and we have to go find out what's going on. So that is one. And the other one is just be aware of repeated sightings over time and distance of people and vehicles. So it might be logical and it might be illogical. So if you're at a tourist site, you're traveling with your principal and you're at a tourist site, I'll use Israel, for example, because I know you've been out there, right? So if you're at the wall, the Wailing Wall, and then you see someone that you're not sure of, and you see that same person at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, it might not be anything because they're doing the same as you guys.
Everyone's doing the thing, the tour.
If you see that same person across the country at a little restaurant somewhere, it's probably strange, right?
Yeah.
If you see them in Cyprus the next week, it's probably strange.
Yeah.
So you've got to, the biggest thing I'd tell you, the biggest takeaway is next to trust your gut is know your environment. Know what's normal. Know what's expected. And when it's not expected, you've got to find out what it is. The real difference between identifying a potential attacker or a potential surveillance is the popularity of unordinary things, non-ordinary things that you have to do.
Learn to recognize the Tijuana zebra. I did an episode with Ed Calderon. Good dude, man. And one of the things he was talking about is know how to recognize the Tijuana zebra. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? He's like, in Tijuana, they got these donkeys painted like zebras. And I'm like, what do you? And he's like, it's perfectly normal. In Tijuana, you see a donkey painted like a zebra, you don't know and bats an eye. But anywhere else in the world, this is like, a catastrophic, like ridiculous event,
Exactly.
So you got to be able to recognize that Tijuana zebra, man. What's relative, organic, again, I say this word organic, but what's really, a lot of it's what's relative to your environment, what's relevant, what should be there, what shouldn't be there.
What's normal. Absolutely.
Yeah, what's the
and it's not us. Thank everything that's good. It's not us that defines normal. It's the environment that defines normal.
Yeah. And, what are the locals? What are the locals staring at like it's out of place?
Absolutely.
No, that's good. Gouge, man. You're a wealth of knowledge.
I just talk a lot, man.
Yeah, whatever. You got a lot to talk about. It's been an honor having you on here. And man, I've getting some good content, some good stuff for people to learn from. I'm sure everyone's going to be coming to your courses after listening to how knowledgeable you are, man. I think you're an awesome fusion between an individual with a big heart and a deep vat of skill set and tactical knowledge, but also real world experience. And I really respect that about you. Every time I've come in contact with you, those are the vibes I've gotten. I really appreciate that.
Much appreciated. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
Absolutely. 100%. Executive protection lifestyle. So one of the things I like to ask too, are there any rituals that you do as an individual or that you think make you better as a person or better at your job? Like daily stuff you do or, things you do in your life that you think contribute to who you are and your success and things like this?
Absolutely, man. Getting out to nature.
Heck yeah.
I mountain bike. And my main drive for mountain biking is to discover trails to run on.
Yeah.
When I'm not biking, I'm running.
Okay.
That's my biggest ritual.
Awesome.
I'll get out there and I'll meditate and I'll beat my demons. That's where I beat my demons and I feel great. And I get healthy. I keep healthy. So that's for me. That's my temple.
Yeah.
Nature where there's no one, there's nothing motorized, there's nothing going on. And I manage to do it when I travel as well. So I don't mind bike when I travel, but it's pretty easy to bring a pair of shorts and some running shoes in the bag.
Yeah.
So that's it. Absolutely. And
get out in nature.
That's my thing. Yes. So that's my rituals. I don't do it as often as I'd like to. So it's not an everyday thing, but when possible, it's at least 4 or 5 times a week.
Heck yeah. Good to go.
Yeah.
So get out in nature, bang the body up, exercise your demons, connect with the universe and nature, man. It's one of the most amazing things in the world.
It. And I don't listen to music, so I phone off.
You're all natural out there.
It's just for emergencies. I will have a phone. But no music, no nothing. Just listen to the sounds. Just listen to your feet on the trail. Listen to the animals out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's without a doubt. That's a big one.
Heck yeah. No, that's good, man. I can see you change when you start talking about it. Like that's your sanctuary. That's good to go, brother. What are you doing nowadays? Where can we find you?
So right now I'm sitting in Las Vegas, far enough away from the strip to not be affected by it. So
yeah, right.
Right now I'm sitting in Vegas. We've just finished on behalf of a solution. I just finished teaching a fixed site security management class, which dealt really a lot with managing a team, identifying risk, and developing ways to mitigate the risk based on the RTVA process as opposed to no process. Great, fantastic class. Everyone really dug deep and did well. And then tomorrow we're starting a micro intel class or protective intel class, which is...
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. It's taking the concept of protective intelligence, which is not a new concept. It's a good concept, but not my concept.
Yeah.
But I'm giving for field folks, for the field agents, I'm giving them the skills to use what I call micro intelligence.
Okay.
To help identify risk, to help identify people that can be assets when they're out working in detail. So that really goes from everything from open source intel, how to identify the risk of your principal from open source intel. So even though a lot of the organizations we work with have their intel departments, this is another layer that's more tactical. And then what ground truth there is on the ground as far as intelligence goes. So,
okay.
Yeah. So what happens if I'm advancing? What intel can I glean from the environment that will help me understand better risk to the principal? What's going on in the environment?
Man.
How do I go find out where my principal's going to be sitting in a restaurant? If they've got a reservation under a name that I don't know and I don't want to, how do I do that?
Skyline myself. Yeah.
Right. So there's pretty cool ways to, I'd say, partnership with people in the field without them knowing that you're partnering with them. That's the best way I can say that.
Ninja security stuff is what this is, right here.
It's pretty ninja. It's all, completely, it's all, of course, completely illegal and completely cool. It's all fine. It's just it's how to use what the environment gives us to help understand risk to our principle over and above the typical stuff we look at.
Yeah. I picture like a guy in the NAM era, like learning how to use the jungle, like a Green Beret, like he's out there learning how to like make straws out of this branch and like make punji pits and all this trash. But then relative to our environment now, essentially.
Right. So the urban jungle, right?
Exactly. The urban jungle, all the different social dynamics, all the tools that you have that you don't realize you have.
Exactly.
And how to really, really leverage those and just make you a smarter agent altogether.
Exactly. So intelligence is a sexy word we use for it. It's not the most accurate word. A better word would be information. Okay. It's about information we can get from the field and from people in the field.
Yeah.
So all sorts of small stuff. How to help our principals and how to
without skylining ourselves. Where is that course and how long is it? So
that's taking place here in Vegas. It starts tomorrow. 3-day class. It's a level 1 basic. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be 3 very intense days. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Are these courses through your company or are these courses?
So this is a AS Solution class. So anyone that's interested, go to assolution.com, hit on the Academy link and you'll see them down at the bottom. There's some other classes listed through AS for later this year. Some of them I'm teaching, some of them I'm not, but there's really some good stuff up on the website. Mm-hmm. It's worth checking out. And then I'm getting ready. So I'm getting ready to be in Israel for a little bit after this trip. It's a long trip. And then right after that, I'm going in early February. I'm presenting on protecting public spaces from terrorism. Awesome. At a really big conference in London, the UK, which is the Counter Terror Expo, CTX. Also well worth checking out. So I'm speaking in the Mass Transport and Border Security Conference within that.
Fantastic.
And lots of stuff going on. And then at the end of March, I'll be speaking at the ASIS conference in Rotterdam that I'm looking forward to, which is a very academic talk, actually. It's based on identifying ROI when considering the risk of terrorism and security measures to increase your business.
Wow.
So, yeah,
you're so academic, man. You're so sophisticated. I love it, man. I like guys that have both, and you know what I find it's really interesting is guys that have the real world, like guys that are really there, that have done it, that I respect. They have both aspects of them. Like one guy I'm thinking of, he's done all kinds of stuff that people want to do, but he's a vegan and he loves yoga and he's
yeah.
And, he's an intellect. He does lectures and all this at the same time, and I love kind of seeing that breed of, kind of warrior protector that's it's not just unbalanced. It's not just a knuckle dragger. It's not just a brain, it's that kind of hybrid. So that's awesome stuff, man. I respect that about you, Ivor. That's good to go.
Thanks, Byron.
I'm going to get on that level someday. But right now I'm just learning from you guys.
It's not about levels. It's not about vertical level. It's about horizontal development. It's not about vertical levels, man. It's about development across. Yeah.
That's what's up. I appreciate that. All right, brother. Well, yeah, those are all the questions. That's everything I had for you today, man. I really appreciate you coming out and spending time with me.
So should we do that again now and record it?
Don't even say that to me. Oh, man. Yeah, man. No, thank God. We got it all. Yeah, brother. All right. Take care. I will see you out there in the real world.
Be in touch. Thanks, Byron.
All right, brother.
Thanks, brother. Peace out.
All right. Boom. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast, and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account, because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.